How's it going, guys? This is Van Damage here. I'm going to be giving you a little bit of a look at a box that I just built for a friend of mine. He wanted it done with a metal toolbox, and I would have to say this turned out a lot better than I had originally thought it would. I mean, this thing is looking impressive to me. Give you a quick little tour of it. Power button turns left, right. Let's see, you got a couple of VU meters here where you can see the just for aesthetic reasons. And oh, look here, what is this? I was able to find a couple of 3.5-inch subwoofers, and though the amplifier that I got with it says, oh yeah, it supports subwoofers and whatnot, it's not exactly the best amplifier in the world for it. It doesn't give you really good sound. Here's the inside of it. I mean, as you can see, just normal wiring like the rest of them. It looks like a hot mess, but it really isn't. Right here you got the VU board. I had to use 2 batteries to power this because the subwoofers actually drain a lot of battery, and one of my previous boxes I use the same amplifier as I have in this guy, and even without the Bluetooth, it doesn't have a very, very long battery life. You got the Bluetooth here. It's not turned on right now, so doesn't have the green light going. Don't have the green glow, if you get that reference. 10 points. On my previous builds, I'll show you something that I did different. If I can get the camera to... come on. There we go, focus. Alright, on my previous builds, if you can see this little black container right here, let me rotate this so that I can... the lid doesn't exactly stay up on its own, but... Alright, on previous builds of mine, I used just the regular female clips like I attached to the battery here, and just attached a 10 amp fuse. Well, this one, I was able to find this. It's an actual fuse holder that you can put in line with it, and it just has a smaller 10 amp fuse from the rest of them. So I put that in line with the battery before the first switch, and I'm glad I did because whenever I was trying to wire this all in, I put everything together. It went so smooth. I was like, oh my god, how could anything on this go wrong? And then I found out that whenever I put this board here and this board over here on, what I had used for insulator didn't really insulate at all. Let me just put it to you this way: don't use the foam that comes with the electronics. It's not going to insulate it for anything. So I ended up getting a couple of rubber stoppers. I put 2 on each post, so I have 8 on this one, 8 on this one, and it pulls it just far enough. And what had happened whenever I had turned it on, after putting the batteries in, hooking up the amplifier, everything was put in nice and beautifully. I'd flip the switch, and this over here would start to cook a little bit. One of the resistors would get extremely hot. It started smoking, and it wasn't doing good stuff at all. So I was like, alright, something's wrong with that. I disconnected the power to that before I went and bought the parts I needed for it, and came over here, and the same thing happened. Except this didn't start smoking. Where the power goes in, which is right over here, I just hardwired it in instead of using a 2.1 by 5.5 adapter. Instead of that, I just hardwired it in straight from the toggle switch up here, and it shorted out and it blew the fuse. I'm sitting there, I'm like, what the heck just happened? I mean, I had plenty of space between it. It shouldn't have been touching the metal box, but me being a ding-ding, it actually did. So I went to the hardware store. I bought a couple more fuses for this, put them in, came back, and it popped again. So that's whenever I discovered that, oh, I wasn't insulating it at all, that the solder on the bottom had a couple of metal pieces sticking out, and it was shorting out on the box itself. So fix that problem. So whenever you do this, make sure you add, rubber backings to these. That'll keep it from shorting out. Nothing got damaged, thankfully. If it had, I would have probably cried a little bit and reordered it. But I mean, as you can see, it's pretty much the exact same, design, build, everything for the other boxes. And I cleaned the wires up quite a bit. Everything's kind of zip tied together. Nothing's loose around in here. Let me attach that back on here. And it sounds amazing. Now, the only problem I had with this was the fact that, like I said, this amplifier is not, it supports subwoofers, but I wouldn't suggest it. This amplifier, at least, it doesn't sound the best with subwoofers. If you're just using it for speakers, by all means get it. It's a great amplifier. That's why I went ahead and got the same one that I have in my other one and put it in here, because it works amazingly with speakers. You have the bass, treble, and volume controls on it. But whenever you're plugging up amplifiers, it doesn't sound, or not amplifiers, but when you're plugging up subwoofers, it doesn't sound great. What can you do though? It does sound good, but not the best. So that's it. Nothing different in here other than the subwoofers, which it has its own spots on the bottom, so I just wired those directly to it and straight to the subs. He wanted green, so everything on here is green. Green toggle switch, green LED for the voltmeter. And that's another problem I have with it. When you turn it on, it makes a weird sound through the speakers. But yeah, green Bluetooth. As you can see, it's now lit up. And oh, look at that coincidence, green as well. I added the ports to it. This right here is a auxiliary and a USB charger. The one thing I don't like about, another thing I hate about this amplifier is you can't just hook, like if you get the right adapter and the right panel mount, you can hook up a USB to it, which you can see is disconnected here. I got a separate unit that I believe may have just came in, so I need to go pick that up from the post office whenever it's open. I'm doing this on Labor Day, and it's not open. But whenever I get that, all I have to do is wire it directly in line with the first toggle switch, or I might just do it directly to the power cable. And then whenever I do that, I can hook that up to it, and this guy will have his own charging port here. So it's got an auxiliary charging port on the side. As you can kind of see, that right there is the charging port for it. So you can just hook it up directly to the wall. I'm using the Uasa chargers like I have on all the other builds I've done. They just seem to be great, and they come with gator clips, so if you need to, do a charge on your battery and you're right next to an outlet, oh look, I have my charger from my Boombox and I have the gator clips. Score. Now I can jump start my car from the wall. Bam. That's why I buy them. They're awesome. I haven't had to use it myself, but the guy that I'm selling this to is a huge car guy, and they seem to have, they've told me that they sometimes die whenever they're trying to get to work, older cars, but hey, now you can charge it from home without needing jumper cables. But this is by far my favorite build so far. I mean, of course, next to my big-ass Boombox, that's always going to be my baby. But as far as the smaller, more portable ones, this is my favorite. It is awesome. I surprised myself with the craftsmanship that I put into it. Because I was building this for somebody else, I took a lot of extra time into it. I probably spent about a week, just a couple hours here, a couple hours there, just trying to get this thing, to look really, really nice. And I think I did a pretty decent job. It doesn't rattle, surprisingly. I mean, you see me latching these guys here. It doesn't rattle. I solved the small bit that I did have with electrical tape up here, and then I just took a small torch and melted it together, so it's not going to come off. Well, this one is a little bit, but it's not bad. It's a little bubble, so I'll melt that a little bit and it'll be good. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. I will be posting this to Instructables.com. I will provide a link below once I have finished that, and you guys can look at it, gawk, stare, see what all needs done to build this. And, pardon me, it wouldn't be a video if I didn't burp in it at least once. But yeah, I'll post that up there. That way you can see what you need, what is required. And if you want to build it yourself, you can. The diamond plate, actually, let me tell you that. This was not difficult at all to cut through and build. This was actually a lot easier than I had anticipated. I tried to use the I used a Dremel to actually cut the holes out for the speakers because it was just too big and I didn't have the right hole adapter. So I used a Dremel. It worked amazingly, other than the fact that my Dremel kept overheating. So I'd Dremel for 5 minutes, and then I'd have to wait an hour, Dremel for 5 more minutes, wait a half hour. But other than that, it was cake. It was so super easy. Again, alright, like as with my other videos, I'm trying to keep this at a reasonable time now. But as with my other videos, if you like this project, like, share, comment. If there's anything that I could have done differently, one thing I do know, I should have probably enclosed these. It would have given it a little bit more base to it, but, it works just fine without having them enclosed. I mean, they're so tiny, it doesn't really matter. But, if there's anything that you see that I could have done differently, let me know. If there is a different, some other kind of project you'd like me to take on and show you how to do it, please comment below. I haven't yet to have somebody do that, so, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that fun jazz, and we'll see you guys next time. Hope you have a good holiday weekend.